Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, to all of our non-binary friends, to everyone on the spectrum and in between, welcome to the Shutter Show. My name is Ken Stack. This is my co-host,
David Marlowe. Happy International Women's Day, Ken.
Happy International Women's Day is the day that we are recording this. It will not be that by the time that you listen to this, because that is how time works. Yeah. But we are very happy for all of the women and their internationalness. Mm-hmm. It's something that we celebrate here.
Indeed we do. Ken, how you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm not too bad. Just another day in paradise, as they say.
Yeah. Well, living the dream right now.
Doing our best.
Yep.
Waiting for a vaccine. Both, my parents now have both had their second shot of the vaccine.
So have mine.
Oh, nice. Good to hear. Yeah, and my brother got his first shot. So that's a good sign.
Mamas and papas getting pricked with that sweet, sweet vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, what are we doing today?
Well, David,
what are we doing here?
Last week I gave you a little bit of an ultimatum that we were going to watch a little movie.
It's a really tough choice.
Yep. A little movie called The Devils by a little man named Ken Russell. One of the good Kens.
Now, I don't know that much about Ken Russell. Now, before we dive into this film, what can you tell me about Ken Russell?
Ken Russell is a English filmmaker known for his dreamlike, wild and crazy movies. Probably his biggest hit would be Altered States. That's the movie where Walter Hurt goes into a isolation chamber and then slowly metamorphosizes backward in time and de-evolves, and it's really, really cool. Let's see here.
I think I remember the poster for that one. I don't think I've actually... Because I don't think... Unless... Yes, that's the poster I'm thinking of.
Yeah. He's also known for Tommy, the musical for The Who. He's up there with Alan Parker. I would put him... Ken Russell is kind of somewhere in between Alan Parker and Terry Gilliam, in the fact that his movies are very designed, but they tend to be very surreal or dreamlike. They tend to have a almost psychedelic,
very fever dreamish.
Yes, absolutely. Fever Dream is 100%
because that is what this movie felt like many a times.
Oh, absolutely. That would be the main way that I would describe this movie. Would be an absolute and total fever dream. There are times when you feel like you must have dreamed the images that you saw in here. Mm-hmm. Even when it's something as simple as where the priest lives. It's this fascinatingly round, circular, 2-level room. And
yeah, he lives in a fun little treehouse.
Oh, yeah, no. Oliver Reed, the priest that fucks in this movie, is...
Oliver Reed, god damn.
He's so good in this movie, and it's so... The only person I can think of who could do a performance like this was Philip Seymour Hoffman. Maybe like Gary Oldman a few years ago,
or Gangs of New York. Why am I?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis would be a perfect.
Sure,
but he would probably become a priest for a little while and fuck some nuns to get into character.
Yes, no, this.
just imagine Daniel Day-Lewis just prepping for his nun fucking character.
By just giving it to a bunch of nuns. Yeah, that sounds very on.
But it's okay. But he takes the actual rites and he becomes a priest, so it's official. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean
because he can't just do a movie about a man living in the wilderness. No, he's got to go live in a cabin and chop some wood for a little while.
A lot of people don't know this, but actually, when it comes to paperwork, is where Daniel Day-Lewis is the most method, and so. So yeah, that would be definitely... he would make sure to cross all of his T's, dot all of his I's, make sure to go to seminary school, the whole nine.
Learn cursive.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, and yeah, to write with a quill and all that nonsense. But yeah, so David, do you want to tell the people at home what this movie is about?
Okay, I will do my best.
Yes.
Because I used to write paragraphs for this, but then I'm just like, I want to just see if I can do it. If I can't, it's kind of hilarious because Ken's just like, David, stop. Just,
I'll
move. I'll drive.
I'll gently nudge you in the direction if need be.
Okay, so this movie takes place in 17th century France during the Black Plague, and this specific town, Loudun, France, or the city Loudun, France. I'm gonna decimate all these names.
Sorry, the people of France.
My horrible American.
You're from the Midwest, where they have Des Plaines, which is just a butchery. Anyway, go on. Yeah, you live in Illinois, but it's called Des Plaines. Nonsense. Anyway, English is dumb.
Yeah, 17th century. As I like to call it, Catholic-heavy France at the time, where
was slowly more Catholic-dominated France now.
Yes.
The religious wars have ended. The Protestants lost. But
This movie is both about the fall of Priest Urbain Grandier. Is that how you pronounce his name, right?
Yeah.
Grandier. But it's also about his rise.
Mm-hmm.
And how he slowly learns to become a good person just before he's put to death for being possessed after being accused by a humped nun. And I'm not talking about your summer crops. I'm talking about
a nun with a hunchback.
Yeah, hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the basics of it.
That's pretty much the basics. I would say.
Take over and drive a little bit.
All right, so yeah, let me elaborate a little bit more. So yes, there's a power struggle going on between the Protestants and the Catholics. The Catholics are winning. Loudun is the last bastion of, or one of the last bastions of Protestant control in France. And,
so is he in fact Protestant?
Well, he is a Protestant priest.
So he's a Protestant priest. So
yes.
He's not in fact Catholic.
No.
Okay.
No, the Catholics are the other side.
The Catholic Church is pretty much like the Baron and the Cardinal.
Yes, Cardinal
coming
Richelieu.
in, yeah, and fucking everything up.
So what is happening there is that the Catholic Church is trying to consolidate power between the church and the state. And at the beginning of the movie, the governor of Loudun dies of the plague and leaves control of Loudun in the hands of Oliver Reed, Grandier, until such time that an election can happen. Now, Loudun is independent is basically able to run itself as its own little kingdom, as long as it agrees to give power and control to France. As long as they
as long as they continue to respect and acknowledge the monarchy.
Yes, exactly.
Is the basis of this. But because the Catholic Church, and this is mostly the Catholic Church pushing this drama and this violence and a lot of things happening.
Particularly the Cardinal is trying to get the king to consolidate power and squash out the Protestants so they can be
the idea that
one
church,
nation under one church.
Yeah, that church and state are one and the same.
Yes. So the church or the Cardinal essentially orders the destruction of the protective walls of Loudun. And Oliver Reed comes out and says, hey, you can't do this. We have an agreement with the king that as long as we stay loyal, and if you've noticed, we've stayed loyal, we get to do our own thing. And
the Baron's like, whatever.
Yeah, and I've got my receipts to prove it. And so that guy gets really mad, and he goes to the king, goes, look, we're trying to do a thing where we're trying to explain, we're trying to, make one nation under God. And the king is basically like, this sounds complicated.
And I'm trying to shoot people dressed as birds. Do you mind?
Well, I'm trying to shoot, in particularly Protestants dressed as birds.
Yeah.
And so, it is.
That is a very. Yeah.
It is a fascinating scene where, it's very clear that the king doesn't care about Protestants because he's willing to shoot them while they're dressed as birds, as they just basically are let go to try and
Was
escape.
was there a particular slur or slang for Protestants back in the day? Was it Blackbird?
I'm sure there was. I couldn't tell you. I would say go and look up your everyone's favorite Middle English
17th
slang
hold
term.
on. I'm going to look up 17th century slang for Protestants.
Okay, yeah, we'll see what we come up with. And then
Meanwhile, keep talking.
Yes, And so, basically, the king is like, this sounds complicated. I don't want to do that. And to be fair, they are still loyal to me. So, unless they do something really, really bad, I'm actually going to be totally fine with this. Which, needless to say, really miffs the cardinal. So, then the cardinal basically decides, okay, what we need to do is we need to trump up some charges against this guy, and so that way we can accuse him of that, and then by deposing him, he won't be the governor anymore, and then we can go in and we can tear down the towers, and we can do our whole Catholic thing.
Wikipedia has a list of religious slurs.
Oh, good.
I don't know if I should dive into this too much. This might be a little
you
depressing.
look for Protestants, and we'll see what comes up. And so
general non-believers.
Yeah, and so the priests then get a bunch of nuns to perform several, I guess we'll call them acts of sexual ritual, in order to convince the town that Oliver Reed has possessed all of these nuns and turned them into a bunch of devil-worshipping, sexed-up nymphos. And it doesn't go well for Oliver Reed. And that is what The Devils is about.
Huh. Nonconformists.
That's not really a slur or a slang term.
I think back then, wasn't it? Just like you're nonconformist. Because, people were fancier back then. I'm sure they had fancier... You said that, nonconformist.
Well, if anybody out there happens to know, if you are a medieval scholar who's listening to this podcast for reasons, please go ahead and email us at shuttershow@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter and Instagram.
We have our own
and
email?
let us know. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we have an email. Shuttershow@gmail.com.
I just thought we had social media.
Oh, no. We have an email address.
Oh,
it gets a decent amount of spam. And
Do we get any fun letters?
Not yet. But hey, you could be first out there, listeners. So please go ahead.
So please, text us or message or email us if you happen to know any fun slurs for Protestants.
There we go.
I'm Presbyterian. That's Protestant light.
I was raised Catholic, so that's. But I was raised Catholic, and we didn't have any beef with the Protestants.
I was raised Presbyterian, and then grew into a wonderful little atheist.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and therefore I'm not anymore.
Because all my schools were Catholic, and I couldn't wait to get away from it.
Mm-hmm. So, yes. David, now that we've talked about what happened in this movie, what'd you think?
I fucking loved it. Because I have to specify, I was watching this with my wife last night, and we were laying in bed, and we had imbibed a little bit of Maui Wowie, and the first dive into it, I was just trying to keep up with the plot and trying to figure out, okay, what is happening, because
it's a little complicated at first, especially because you don't really feel like you're in reality.
Well, it's like if you were to just say, you know what, I'm gonna watch The Crucible today, completely not understanding that, no, it's written in traditional New England.
Yeah,
or New England dialect and speech,
or going out to read either 1984 or Clockwork Orange or Train Spotting, all three of which are written in slang. Yeah. And so part of reading is learning to translate this text, and this has a kind of a flowery.
If you're not familiar with classic literature, or even just if you're not familiar with just basic things like Shakespeare, and you go and you see Shakespeare in play, you're like, I have no idea what these people are fucking saying. You get a lot of that. But if you don't necessarily realize it's what you're jumping into, it takes a little while for your brain to catch up for a second. You're like, oh, okay, it's this kind of movie. Okay, I gotta check in, and I gotta really focus. And fuck, it's so good.
It's about as flowery as something like A Man of All Seasons, or something along those lines. It's not full Shakespeare.
It's
not,
beautiful.
Oh, it's beautifully written. I'm just saying, like, it to the listeners out there who might be a little freaked out. Like, this movie is not an iambic pentameter.
No,
this movie is
not like that.
It is not an overly stylized language. It is hyper real. It is gilded, I would say. It has a style to it, but it's not something that you need to have subtitles on.
Well, Ken Russell doesn't treat his audience like they don't know what's going on. Like he trusts them to understand eventually what's happening.
For a movie that takes place in the 17th century, it feels incredibly modern. And one of the things that I really liked in the...
That's very much thanks to Derek Jarman, too.
Oh, well, Derek Jarman's production design is stellar. It is... Vanessa Redgrave was saying...
I will never be that good.
Vanessa Redgrave was saying in the documentary that was released about this that originally they were supposed to go to France and shoot in real castles. And when she found out that they were going to be building all the sets at Pinewood,
she kind of got a little. Oh,
she was a little disappointed.
A little disappointed.
And then she saw what they made, and Derek Jarman's designs just
gotten so excited,
blew her brain. Like it just blew her mind. And they're incredible. They're minimalistic. They're that perfect example of something that is both modern and old fashioned,
but also institutional.
Orderly, clean, sterile, but also at the same time, like
the nuns looked like they lived in a cuckoo house. It looked like they lived in a mental institution.
It is the same mindset that I have when I see like the new Star Trek shows, which is you understand that living in an Apple store in space would drive you insane, right? If every single corner was clean, everything was lit up all the time, you would go insane. In the same way that living in a manicured Apple store would drive you nuts. What you would want, like if I'm going to be stuck in space, traveling through for years, I want to live in the hotel in Ex Machina. I want something cozy with like medium light levels.
Ex Machina?
Ex Machina. Ex Machina. Ex Machina.
Oh yeah.
But like,
live there.
Yeah, that kind of like with like wood tones and everything feels cozy,
human,
and like a womb, and you want to curl up inside with a blanket, and you want to read there,
and everything about this film is just sterile, but also disgusting and just not meant for people to live there.
It's a weird mix of too clean and borderline medieval times.
Which isn't that just the Catholic Church?
I guess. What?
I mean, well, no, it's just like it's like how I don't know because I think I having grown up around religious institutions and constantly seeing these institutions tell people what they can and can't do, or like judging everybody from these weird positions. But every time I go into a church and it's all so clean, but at the same time too, it does feel like you're in a police station sometimes.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's everything in this movie is in its place.
Yes, a thing for everything.
With the exception of Oliver Reed. He is out of his place. And that is why the church is...
He's a priest that fucks.
He absolutely is a priest that fucks. And he fucks everything in this movie. Although he is still a man of principle. Like, there's no... Oliver Reed doesn't do any raping in this movie. A bunch of sexed up nuns in the deleted scenes absolutely have their way with a statue of Christ, which...
You've heard what happens to the femur in the director's cut, right?
Yeah. No, Vanessa Redgrave in the So, all right.
There's
a lot.
I'm so sorry because you do need context for this.
So...
Otherwise, it just comes out of left field.
So all right. I guess spoilers.
Yeah.
So they burn Oliver Reed to death at the end of this movie. And the guy who is responsible for getting him burned to death goes to Vanessa Redgrave, the sexed up hunchback nun, who went and told the church that Oliver Reed was a demon, or it was a devil and a demon who had seduced her with his demonic powers. And that priest
his little helpers.
and she feels pretty bad about it now. And so the priest is like, by the way, here's like a little token for you.
It's a souvenir.
And throws her the burnt femur bone of Oliver Reed, because, he burned to death in a fire. And in the director's cut of this movie, it would be the director's, the X-rated director's cut of this movie.
Y'all are talking about release the Snyder Cut. I'm sorry, just release the X-rated
Warner Brothers,
Russell Devil's
Warner
cut.
Brothers have it. The one where Vanessa Redgrave absolutely.
It's Warner Brothers.
She masturbates with a.
That's
burnt,
the kind of cut I want to see.
She masturbates with a burnt femur. There we go. I
said it. Release the Russell cut.
Yes, please. # release the Russell cut. And then there's also. So all right. So there's a couple. This movie's a lot. There's as we talked about briefly last week. There's 3 cuts of this movie. There is the released original R-rated cut that is the most widely available version of this movie.
Which one is on?
This version of the movie is the X-rated version of this film, which is still pruned. Missing the masturbating femur scene, missing the bunch of nuns have sex with a statue of Christ scene.
Specifically called the Jesus rape scene.
Specifically called the Jesus rape scene. What would you...
Like a nurse is literally jacking off a candle.
Oh, there's the imagery in this movie. Yeah, no, so I guess trigger warning if you're upset by deity sex or something. So
or whatever,
and then
or maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe you're in church and you look up at that statue. And
there's the original version of this, which was not originally shown in England, but was discovered basically in a closet and was released 10 years ago, or was premiered in London 10 years ago with the help of Mark Kermode. And while there have been many discussions...
It was written by John Whitings, right?
He did the... John Whitings did...
The play. He wrote the play.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mark Kermode helped release that. And basically, after it played at that film festival, Warner Brothers just said, we're not releasing this. And Criterion and many other film film releasing companies have gone to them and said, can we just release this movie? And Warner Brothers has said flat out, no.
There was a group of critics that created the 45 most influential films in cinema history, and The Devil's is on that list.
Oh, for sure.
A group of critics, film critics.
Yeah.
The same people who canned the film, but also this is one of those films that gets this weird, that has this reputation. Despite the fact that everyone is pretty much saying, no, this is brilliant. This is a brilliant piece of art, and you need to see this. It's so well done.
Well, so many brilliant pieces of filmmaking that are ahead of their time, it's not appreciated usually by the critics when it comes out. I mean, 2001 originally got panned when it came out. Citizen Kane got a lot of crap when it came out.
Dogma had a bunch of crap with the Catholic Church, but Kevin Smith was just smart enough to use that as publicity.
Well, yes, a lot of times you create something controversial just to create the publicity for it, and then other times you get a movie that so it took me a little bit to figure out why this movie, and it wasn't until I was watching the one of the documentaries where they brought up the Troubles that happened in England. And it suddenly occurred to me, oh, of course. It's been the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The Irish Republican Army and the Protestants and the Catholics have been fighting over the northern border of Ireland for decades now. And there are pipe bombs and all this other stuff going on. Of course, a movie about the battling between Protestants and Catholics.
Well, you even talk about it in in the documentary on this film, Hell on Earth. Oh God, who was it in the documentary who was talking about the comparison to this whole city losing their collective shit? And they're like, yeah, no, like you think about that in the 17th century. The unfortunate thing is, it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's happening, like, and we're seeing it in the UK, where just the border of Northern Ireland is fucking on fire constantly.
Well, and the government is wading into what is this struggle between two religious sects, which also, let's be very clear, Catholics and Protestants essentially believe the same exact goddamn thing, except they have decided that they're going to blow each other up over it. It's really some semantics and some smaller stuff between the two of them. It's like, can priests have sex? How often do you have to go to church? It's
the most mundane details. It's all clerical.
It's real small,
real red tape.
It's not the difference between Buddhism and being raised in Islam, where it's just like, well, no, we got completely, or Hinduism and Judaism, like. No, you got completely different gods from completely different worlds, and like you got some overlapping stories, but they're wildly different. No. Protestant and Catholic are like a couple of small rituals. When they stop speaking Latin, can priests get down or not? And that is one of the ways that you know that Oliver Reed is definitely a Protestant priest and not a Catholic, because as we've said many times before, he's a priest that fucks.
And at the beginning of this film, my God, is he such a piece of shit.
Yeah, 100%. He is a rake in the classic sense of the term. He is a piece of shit. That said,
but like this is a redemption story if there ever was one.
It's a redemption story, but I would say a big thing is that he is. Everything he does that's bad is purely human, and he never lies about that. He says that he has no sex. Shame. He has no shame. He says he has weakness because he is human, and because he has lust in his heart, and because he loves women, and he's not going to apologize for that. And he understands that while that might not be okay by what by what the church quote unquote says, but that is something that purely makes him human. All of the women he has sex with consent to him. He loves them and leaves them. He hits it and quits it.
Oh yeah.
But they're all into it.
He's having a very tender moment with one of his lovers, who happens to be the daughter of the the
constable.
The constable. So yeah, he's been fucking the constable's daughter, and they're just chilling in bed, hanging out, and they're joking and everything, and then she's just, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And then she's like, "Well, this was fun."
Yep. Yeah. And with that,
I take my leave from you. And she's like, "Whoa,
disappear!" Bam! Drops a smoke bomb and just gets out.
I have never seen somebody so quickly just be like, "All right."
And with that, our affair comes to an end.
It's like, wait. What are you gonna like?
Which?
Like, aren't you gonna help? You're like, why? You made the mistake. You chose to sleep with me.
Well, yeah, we were like,
you need to repent. You are unclean. Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, we will. He basically says we were both weak in that moment, and I will have to live with that, and you will have to live with that too. Subtext.
You just have this. You have this reminder that is your bastard child.
That said, it's 17th century France. So I don't know.
Which I do love.
He didn't beat her to death.
I do
he
love
wasn't like, well, you're my property now. So I guess that's kind of woke for the 17th century.
There are some unintentionally hilarious moments in this film, and one of them is when he's being burned at the stake, and watching from a balcony somewhere is this woman and her father, like waiting with some friends on the balcony, and he just holds up this cherub of a baby. He's like, "Yes, watch the vengeance of your watch the bastard gets his justice." But it's just this tiny little cherub-faced baby who's just like wrapped up in this fucking thing and can't move and just looks like does not want to be there.
No understanding of what's happening.
It's kind of like when the two priests, or in the priest and the witch hunter, Bar, I believe is his name.
I believe so. Yes.
They won't give him the ritual kiss before he's burned at the stake, and everyone's just kind of getting a little riotous, and they're like kiss him, And then, while Barr is being like, this is terrible. I will not kiss the devil. And then he just like whispers over to the other priest, kiss her. Just you do it. You do it. And just so many of those unintentionally hilarious moments.
I mean, to me, the funniest, weirdest moment, and the one that, listeners, if you're out there and you understand this, if you
I gotta hear this.
If you understand what this symbolism is, please let us know. So there's a scene in this movie where Oliver Reed gets notified by a local peasant woman that essentially there are two crazy witch doctors who are trying to cure a woman of her plague. And they're doing it by zapping her with like wasp bites and
they're putting wasps in hot jars and they're suctioning them to this woman and letting the wasps sting her.
Yes, and then also using a series of other various poisons.
Fucked up cupping.
Screwed up cupping, cupping with hornets, and then also giving her various poisons. At one point they mention mistletoe that I think they're giving to her, which is poisonous as all get out, and a bunch of other various poisonous and not good for you serums that when you believe in that your body is controlled by four humors and they need to be in a perfect balance, that's how you cure people. Anyway, so Oliver Reed comes bursting in and is basically like, you guys are full of crap. This is not how you do stuff. Leave this poor lady alone. And he proceeds to throw a huge amount of their stuff either into a furnace or out of a window because there's fire in it, so it looked like a furnace.
I think it's a furnace.
And at one point, he picks up a stuffed alligator and throws it. And and they also say like, our alligator! So like it wasn't like a weird prop thing or an accident or this was involved in some way.
And it looks so much like a prop alligator.
Well, I mean, it is a prop alligator. Nobody is throwing a live alligator anywhere at all for I think just PETA reasons. If nothing else, then it's like I don't care how crazy you are. I don't think, hey, let's let a live alligator run around the room that we're trying to cure this lady in is anyone's idea of medicine.
But then at the same time, what is a stuffed alligator going to do?
Well, when you believe that the body is balanced by four different humors, if you want to say that, the stuffed alligator is going to scare the bile back into something, it's stupid, but that at least makes sense. Let's let a live alligator run around the room while we're distracted. Because let's be clear, we are also putting hornets inside of hot metal jars and cupping them to a lady. So we're distracted. So from just that standpoint, I don't think letting a live alligator run around is going to be anyone's idea of being a doctor. A stuffed alligator, you could make up a lot of nonsense to make a stuffed alligator. So anyway, Oliver Reed chucks this thing into the furnace. But then what's really wild is that a scene in Change later, the constable basically meets Oliver Reed outside.
You fucked my daughter.
And yeah, basically it's like, you fucked my daughter. Not cool, bro. And he basically pulls out his sword and goes to attack Oliver Reed. And then Oliver Reed defends himself with a stuffed alligator, which makes me question, are there two stuffed alligators?
Wait, was the stuffed alligator tossed to him here, use this? I'm trying to remember if that was...
No, nobody tosses it to him.
Did he just take it from off stage?
It was somewhere. Yes, it appears to have come from stage right. That's the best that I can kind of come up with. So if anyone can explain to me the stuffed alligator conundrum, which sounds like a really weird porno starring Kate Winslet, please let me know if you can explain that. It is again, as we were saying at the beginning,
from the director of Skeleton Key.
This movie is a fever dream. Oliver Reed defends himself with a stuffed alligator, and then on top of it, it breaks the sword. And
we haven't even talked about the nun orgy.
Oh yes, no. I mean, we're still getting there. David, please talk about the nun orgy.
For starters, there's more than one nun orgy.
Of course, there is.
And then there are two. I'd almost say there's two separate nun orgies.
You can't have just one nun orgy. It's like eating a potato chip.
Exactly, or I'm trying to think of like a good candy bar that
What's the famous Howard Hawks line? A good movie is 3 nun orgies and no bad ones.
That's it.
Yep, there we go.
That But they do a crucible where it's pretty much the priest urging everyone on to is like no, the devil's in you, so you gotta act crazy and deranged and everything, like let your inhibitions go, because who gives a fuck because you're possessed. And then there's another one where they have all the nuns in a hole, and they're saying like, cool, we're gonna execute you by crossbow, like mass crossbow. You could also tell us, you could confess, Urbain Grandier about how he is in fact the devil trying to possess you.
Actually, first what they say is, look, we're going to have to execute you because it's pretty clear that you're possessed by Satan. And they're all like, no, please don't murder us. We swear we're not possessed by Satan. That wouldn't be a thing a bunch of us nuns would do. And then they're like, all right, I'll tell you what. If you really put your back into it, if you really show us how possessed by Satan you are, and like really let go, like really go for it, go big, like make the theater kids retire in shame, just absolutely go for it. And then if you do that, and then you tell us that Grandier is the reason that you're doing this, then we won't all murder you with crossbows. And their immediate response is, nun orgy! And just like, everybody starts writhing around, and clothes start coming off.
And the best part is when they realize that they've just been given the giant, the largest placebo on the fucking planet.
Well, that's a couple of scenes later, and it's a brilliant scene where...
So good.
Where basically the king shows up,
like
in disguise.
In disguise.
Well, in disguise, because he can't show himself being like, so the king can't show up at an orgy. It's like it's gauche.
It's not a bad. It's not a good look.
It's the reason they wear masks and eyes wide shut. So he shows up in a mask and is like, "Hi, I'm a random person. I hear you have a bunch of crazy nuns here having sex because of Satan. Maybe I could see such a thing, as a curiosity." And they're like, yeah, no, of course. That's why we're having a big public display to show off to everybody in the kingdom how crazy this nun orgy, like how much they're possessed by Satan. And then the guy who's definitely not the king in a mask says, actually, I have something, a little gift here. It is actually a vial of Jesus' blood that someone in the court... somewhere who knows
Angelina
the king.
Jolie Jesus.
Yeah, and we happen to have some that we got from somewhere. What do you think will happen to all these devils if you, wave this box of Jesus blood around them? And all the people who super believe in this grift.
All these QAnon folks.
Yep. Way to get us canceled in the algorithm. Yes. Basically, yeah. All of these folks who are into this lie immediately are like, oh, Jesus blood sounds awesome. And they wave the box around, and suddenly everybody who's all possessed by Satan suddenly says, oh, I'm cured, and everything's great, and Jesus has made me pure, and everything's great. And then the guy who's definitely not the king in a mask says, open up the box. You should see the Jesus blood. It's super good stuff. And then they open the box, and it's empty. And basically then the guy who's definitely not the king in a mask says, ha, 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 what a good joke that I played. What a bunch of dorks you are, all pretending to have a big nun orgy. I'm the king. I've seen plenty of nun orgies.
What was it?
Goodbye.
Well, there's even a point where the priest is just super pissed off. It's like, what story are you trying to spin? Well, it looks like you're the one spinning the story on us. Well, thanks for being somewhat useful, nuns. Ta-ta.
Yeah, enjoyed seeing all of you naked. I'm going to go now. And then he is one of at least two characters in this movie who does not walk. There's both him and Richelieu. Richelieu gets carted around in the weird
Is
prison.
that a real thing from back then?
I don't know. I don't know if
It'd be hilarious if it was.
I don't know if the Hannibal Lecter hand cart model that Richelieu gets carted around in is real.
I'm sure that's authentic 17th century.
I do know that. I do know that people were carried around in elevated carts around the city for.
Oh yeah, they were Xerxes all over the place.
Well, yes, for if nothing else, just because literally the streets were filled with shit. I don't know if a lot of people know this. So that classic brownstone design that you see in New York, where like everything in New York is like a half a story to 1 story, like walk up at the beginning. Well, that's because the streets originally were filled with so much crap that like you wanted the first floor of your house like above that. And then, like, your servants' quarters and, like, stuff like that, that could be below that. That was their business. That's why they had the steps down. But, like, the brownstone walk up was 100% because literally the streets were just filled with poop. There were literally articles that were written around the turn of the century in London and in New York where basically they were like, look, if we keep up this horse thing much longer, we're all going to drown in poop. We're going to have to figure out, like, it's going to be 6
Which Alfred Krupp would have loved.
Well, yes. Tangent, but 100%. Yes. But anyway, and then we invented cars, and then those stopped polluting, and everything's fine now. So, got rid of that poop problem. Definitely no other problems caused by cars.
You can totally see the mountains super well here in LA. It's, doesn't seem like there's a brown cloud on everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I only will ride around on my velocipede. That is the only way that I'm interested in traveling.
Look at you classy son of a bitch.
Yep, turn of the century gentleman.
Yeah, but yes, this film is fucking nuts.
Yes, it is nuts. It is crazy. It is wonderful. It will
just beautiful.
Gorgeous to look at. It is surreal. It is a movie that will haunt you with its image. It is a movie that will leave you with images that you will never forget.
Favorite. Okay. Favorite character in this? What would you have to say is your favorite character in this?
Oh, I got
outside of Oliver.
I would have to go probably with favorite character. Let's see here. I really like the King just because he's just such a dick. He's such a one. Like he's all right. I really like the King in this because he's a perfect example of like the entitled guy who does whatever he wants and nobody can tell him anything. But he kind of knows that. But he also
watch my play.
Yeah. But he also revels in it. Yeah, he makes everybody come to his own plays. It's he is a wonderfully realized,
so eccentric.
Absolutely terrible person who 100% has been told since he was a child that in fact he was like the right hand of God and anything he chooses to do is also like approved by the big man upstairs. And let's see here. And then the other option I would say, I really like the woman that he impregnates. I think she gives a really, really a really strong performance where you can see her both struggling with her care of this man, but also at the same time you can see her you can see her both slowly realizing, oh, this dude sucks, and then also like, oh, but look at him redeeming himself. It's a bummer that's here at the end, but like, yeah, there's a reason I liked him. He was a good guy.
Until, he wasn't.
Well, until he was burned to death at the stake, yeah. What about you?
She was one of them. One of the ones I was going to talk. For one thing, I was curious what was going on with the makeup, and she seemed to be the only person wearing makeup.
I didn't notice that specifically. I believe you.
The blue makeup, the blue face.
Oh yes, no, the blue face. Yes.
Yes.
Again, I think there's some symbolism going on here that maybe is above and beyond my head, or maybe it's a specific.
Some real Anthony Hopkins Titus stuff happening.
That, or it very well also could be a thing tied to the plague. There was all sorts of weird beliefs about the things that would keep you safe.
Yeah, again,
during
like
those times.
No, and this is because this is also based off of the book. Like I think it was like 1952 is when this book was written, or at least published. No, The Devils of Loudun.
Yeah. Well, that's when Aldous Huxley. Yes. basically sourced a lot of the material to, from what I understand, substantiate most of what happens in this movie. What happens in this movie, I would say, is very likely more stylized than what actually happened. From what I understand, most of the facts of the events.
Yeah, I only had a week to kind of like to watch this and like research it and understand what's going on with it. So this is definitely a book that I'd be fascinated to pick up, just because the story is fascinating. It's the Crucible in 17th century France, pretty much, with the Catholic Church versus the Protestants, and I can't possibly put too much praise on this. It's everything from just the crazy score.
Oh, the score is incredible. Like the score is, we should mention it briefly, is almost completely atonal. It is a weird mix of like improvised acid jazz and experimental music. That one of the only scores I can think of that's kind of in the same wheelhouse is like Ravenous, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, there's did you end up seeing the interview with Oliver where he talks about when he was burned at the stake?
Oh, yes, I did.
So in this interview, which you can actually find on YouTube, and dude's hilarious when he's being interviewed. But he's talking about how they're doing the scene in Pinewood where he's being burned at the stake, and everything's sort of rigged up for safety. There's a button he can press if things start getting too hot. There's even like a trap door they can release, like in case of like serious emergencies. But meanwhile, on the other side of the fire is Ken Russell, literally throwing petrol onto the flame to like get the flame to go up higher.
Because the wind is blowing in the wrong direction, and so as a result, like the fire's not by Oliver. So
and then Oliver describes like one of the ADs going up to Russell and being like, "Hey, we got to stop throwing petrol because I think he's actually burning to death." And at which point he describes Russell just being, "Oh man."
And knowing Oliver Reed was probably a little tipsy when he was tied up there, so he probably thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
because Oliver Reed is up there with Peter O'Toole, is one of the all-time great drinkers of British history.
Yeah, he also has some hilarious quotes that have been given by many of his crew and cast members. One of them is I made sure to write this down. It's like, during the days where they were shooting the orgy scene, the nun orgy, a bunch of the naked actors, I think it was raining, and they were just being silly, and they were running naked around this tree. And a bunch of gorgeous naked women running around a tree. And it's raining outside. Ken Russell goes over to one of the crew members, and then he's like, "No matter what, when they come in, make sure that you blow dry their tits." And they're like, "What? Like literally?"
Yeah, warm them up.
Yes, warm them up. You don't want those getting too cold. And literally, actually had a guy with a blow dryer just pointed at nun tits. And
yep, just warming up those titties.
Just warming up those titties.
The late 60s, early 70s.
Happy International Women's Day, everybody.
Yeah, we're a hell of a time.
God damn it.
No.
But just weird random shit.
Yeah, it's watch The Devils. It's super good. That's why we talked about it. You will never forget watching The Devils. I can promise you that. Now, David, I believe it has come for that time in the evening when we are going to travel in time, and we're going to watch some trailers, and we're going to find out what we're going to watch next week.
Indeed. Oh, Ken, how the turns have tabled.
How the turns have tabled.
Mm-hmm.
You have to walk before you can crawl, I guess.
Yep. All right.
Let's
pull this bad boy out.
Okay, well, David, what are we going to watch? I mean, if we're going to travel in time, we should.
We're going to travel in time.
Okay.
And we're going, because I've watched, it's a newer film.
Okay.
But I've been wanting to see it. It looks creepy as fuck.
Okay, so we're just going to. What's the movie?
Hold on, I'm going to pull it up here because I've only remembered half the title, despite the fact.
Is it The Dark and the Wicked? David?
Yes, it is. It is The Dark and the Wicked. Thank you.
All right, good. All right.
Oh,
I can't believe that you
Had-
chose
had-
a movie and then I had to remember
I
the title.
chose the movie and
This is-
and I had just the classic brain fart.
This is embarrassing, David. All right. hang
Thanks,
on.
kid.
Boop, 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 boop. David, get your ass in there.
I
Stop
want to
embarrassing
press.
us.
I want to press the button.
All right, you press the button.
Press the button.
Again, the future still. Hang on, let me check the window. Yeah, still plague outside.
Ken, am I still fired?
You are still fired.
Ah.
There is still plague outside, so we will retain you as an essential worker for the moment.
Oh, good. Do I get a vaccine?
No,
Damn it!
no, you get nothing. You get nothing and like it. So, we watched the trailer for The Dark and the Wicked, and it's by the director of The Strangers.
Yes.
And it looks pretty cool.
Which that was one of the things that really kind of had me like. That was the final get me on board sort of thing because I fucking love The Strangers.
No, it's yeah, no,
It is a legit like one of the creepier home invasion.
films
that I've seen.
This trailer looks like a good spooky stuff on a farm movie, and I like spooky stuff on a farm.
Yeah,
so that's
very. What was it I said? It was like it's like kind of like a modern day The Witch / Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Sort of
definitely
thing.
the vibe, the color treatment is very much that style.
Yeah. So yeah, that is my selection for you. The film that's name I can't remember. The Dark and the Wicked.
Sounds good. David, do you have any plugs you want to plug?
Feel free to check us out at Shutter_show on Instagram. There is usually where I post when we'll be recording and releasing all of our episodes. And yeah, that's actually the easiest way that you can kind of get in touch with me if you have any questions, critiques. If you want to compliment us, I'm not going to.
I'm not gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm not going to say no to that. Or you can just follow me at _DW Marlowe on Instagram as well. If you're interested in me as a person and you want to see what I got going on in my life, it's fine.
There we go.
Come by, say hello.
Yeah, and you can check me out and say hello to me on Twitter, or you can explain to me why Oliver Reed was in a sword fight with an alligator and what all that was about. You can do that at Ken Stachnik, STACHNIK, and that's on the Twitter and on Instagram. You can check us, our website, or you can check out the show on Twitter on @ShutterShow, no underscore this time. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
Don't forget Freddy Potatoes.
Oh, yes, and also please follow my dog on Instagram.
Yeah, Mr. Potato.
At Freddy Potatoes, FREDDIE. And until then, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, good night, good luck, and go fuck yourself.